Hey, it's Alika with the French American Fam, and today I want to share some more culture shocks I experienced as an American in France. I want to explore why these differences exist and hear your experiences throughout this video. Quick disclaimer, this video isn't saying one culture is better than the other. This is simply my experiences and observations. You're welcome to agree, disagree, or share your perspective in the comments. One of the earliest little shocks I had was how greetings are used. In English, we say good morning. It's the most common greeting to use when greeting people before midday, especially first thing in the morning. The literal translation bon matin is not used in France. It's considered an English-influenced expression, but it's actually quite common in French Canada. In France, people usually just say bonjour in the morning throughout the afternoon. That difference took me a minute to get used to because in English, good morning feels warm and inviting. But in France, bonjour simply functions as the universal daytime greeting. Maybe this is a little irrational or more of a linguistic nuance, but to my American ears, hearing bonjour in the morning as a greeting instead of something more special for the morning feels a bit cold, impersonal, and formal. But then again, this happens in the US too, where how are you doing is a common greeting in passing. People aren't really wanting to know exactly how you're doing, and you're usually just expected to keep your response short, sweet, or generic, like fine, thanks, how are you? Or I'm doing good, thanks, how are you doing? Many Europeans are confused by why strangers would ask this question, and it comes across as intrusive. Just know, Americans aren't really asking you to share how you're really doing. It's just a quick greeting. What greeting surprised you when you traveled? Did they feel warm, cold, confusing, or just different? This next one genuinely shocked me. During my time in France, I saw very few babies or young children in busy public areas compared to what I'm used to in the US. In big cities like Dallas, Chicago, or Tulsa, you see kids in many different spaces. Restaurants, parks, accompanying parents while they run errands. In France, it felt like I saw maybe one or two babies in high traffic areas. Or perhaps kids are just in school for much longer hours in France. But there's a real demographic context here. Overall, birth rates are low across developed countries. In 2024, France's total fertility birth rate, the average number of children a woman would have in her lifetime, was around 1.62 children per woman, one of the lowest in French history. By comparison, the fertility rate hovers around 1.62 to 1.79 per woman in the US. Globally, fertility rates have been dropping for decades, with the average around 2.3 children per woman as of 2023. In cultural terms, Americans have long talked about an ideal of between 2 to 3 children, even if the reality is lower. Anecdotal and survey data from France often describe people considering 1 to 2 children as the ideal. So the difference you feel on the streets do connect to real demographic trends. Every country is different in how they generally feel about children and family life. Some are inviting and welcoming to babies, and some feel more nonchalant about them. Have you noticed this? Do you feel like your country or city is a child-friendly area, or do you feel like the birth rate is declining? This next one really stood out to me. I was shocked to see it everywhere, and I really didn't grasp the gravity of the situation until I was in France. Smoking is so common in France. It's much more visible and seems to be like a rite of passage or a social ritual rather than just a bad habit. I saw people smoking in cafe terraces, on streets, and ironically while waiting for their workout class to start. I saw groups of young people at a popular hangout spot in Toulouse. Literally all of them were smoking. And I even saw young teens smoking while their parents were nearby. And this was in the morning, out in broad daylight. In everyday life in the US, you just don't see that as often, especially among younger generations. And smoking is banned in most places, so smokers typically have to go far away from public view to enjoy their smoke. Also, FYI, cigarettes are much more expensive in France, and the packages are ugly, a tactic implemented by the French government to curb smoking. The average pack of 20 cigarettes is about 13 euros. But still, the data doesn't lie. France's smoking rates are higher overall. Recent data shows that about 26% of adults in France smoke tobacco regularly. That's roughly 1 in 4 adults, which is significantly higher than in the US, where about 11% of adults smoke. Even kids and teens smoke at noticeable rates. Around 6% of 10 to 14-year-olds have smoked cigarettes. Unfortunately, public surveys show that about 1 in 4 17-year-olds in France smoke daily in recent years. But good news is that that's been trending downward with recent anti-smoking efforts. So from my experience in the US, it feels uncommon to see people smoking cigarettes regularly, especially younger people. Meanwhile, in France, cigarette smoking is still visible and remains more socially accepted. Historically, cigarette smoking was associated with cafe culture, artistic glamour, and being effortlessly cool. Do you think cigarette smoking remains socially accepted, or do you think that the smoking culture is declining with time? Probably one of the biggest culture shocks I have, present tense because this still shocks me, was how many French people still talk about the American dream. Even with everything going on in the US, economic frustrations, horrible political tensions, financial pressures, there's still a real belief among people abroad that the United States represents opportunity, reinvention, and upward mobility. I do believe a big part of this is due to the excitement of novelty, increased salaries, and overhyped media influence, as well as confirmation bias. But here's the nuance. The American dream is not automatic. It's not a guaranteed ticket to success. In the US, you do hear a lot of messages about hard work and perseverance, which can create upward mobility. There's still systemic barriers, economic constraints, and real challenges. Yet the idea that you can build, grow, and change through effort still resonates strongly, even among people who live in cultures that emphasize security, stability, and state-supported social systems more than the US does. Do you think the American dream still exists, or do you think it's an unrealistic ideal? So those are some more culture shocks that I experienced. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you so much for being here. See you next time. A bientôt.